last we saw Christoph Ingenhoven from Ingenhoven Architects, it was last fall in Chicago, and you were there to pick up your Best Tall Building Award for Asia and Australasia for the One Bly building in Sydney. And now you're back here in London to talk about why I am in love with high rises, which may seem kind of contrary to the European spirit to some people. Is that true? Are high rises being accepted more in Europe now?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure because they build more, but if that means that they are more accepted, I'm not sure because people generally don't like them. I see them as a needed kind of technology, and I look at that as automotive or computer industry or whatever. We need them to survive on that little blue planet. If we even would do no high rise in Germany or in France or in Italy or in England, because we don't have that need for high rises in our cities, I think we would lose the contact to that kind of technology. And then there are certain regions in our cities, like in Paris, La Défense, or like parts of the city of London, or Canary Wharf, or the city of Frankfurt, or the city of Milan in Italy, where it is kind of contextual even to use them. And there, I think it is a place, because they are highly prestigious, I think they are the places where we could develop even the most advanced, the most sophisticated type of high rises to again showcase that kind of technology which is needed in the world.
With everything that's going on in London here in building design and technology, I've heard kind of differing opinions as to whether the style that you're seeing in London is the same thing as the European style or not. Are we talking about the same thing or no?
I would say mainly yes, but there are some examples where we get over the top. It's always difficult to find the right balance because there is a kind of tendency to get to kind of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Shanghai architecture, also in Germany, also in England, also even in Denmark, and because many of these architects work in foreign countries and do bigger, taller, faster buildings. If they get back to Europe, they have to reset, in a way, their mindset and say, okay, we are in Europe, let's concentrate a little bit and do the appropriate thing. And that is always difficult to do, to be honest. And I think, but I'm quite optimistic. I think in London there is, for example, because we are in London, I have to say in London, we are not getting too much over the top. I think it is a place to provide in the next 10, 15 years the most sophisticated high rises in the world, and they should take the chance to do that.
Well, returning to your topic, which is why you are in love with high rises, what are some very successful examples when you look out there and see the product? What interests you?
I'm mostly interested in, let's say what is boring is to provide the most flexible and most efficient floor plate, because that is possible. And that's in a way easy. You just have to make the thing bigger and whatever, taller. What is a real challenge is mainly two issues. One is to structure, to do variations, to do a better quality of all the public addressable, accessible spaces, even to invent and introduce public spaces at all into a building like a high-rise. I think they are much too much secured. I don't know from where these kind of issues are all coming. My gross feeling is that they have much too much security and closed windows and autistic high rises. I think we have to open them up completely. I mean, there's no reason for not having a public ground floor and big halls and atrias and things to get them connected with all the shops and whatever residential areas around them. Because if we say we are an autistic kind of a building, we will never be successful in a city like London or Paris. But we have to open them and break the types. And the second thing is obviously that we have to do better, more efficient sustainable high-rises. I mean, we still have to look for lower energy consumption, better energy production. How can we get the next step into a solar century, a solar age? And there, high-rises could play a role. You mentioned the wind turbines, but I have to say there are other issues like solar panels on the roof, solar panels on the facade. There is still compactness, insulation, excuse me, and there is as well things like thermal movements of air through the building. There are many issues you can do, which makes a building like a high-rise a better place to live and to work in.
One of your projects is the RWE Tower in Essen, which is if I've pronounced that right, is the highest building in the Ruhr area, but it is really noted for being the world's first ecological building, and it's already more than 15 years old. And I guess that's still really a good example of what you can do with technology, at least in terms of ecology. Has the sociology aspect of buildings been given more thought in Germany now, because I know how important the village is?
I think so, because we are living and we are thinking in smaller units. I think it's a human scale issue as well, and I still think that we are building in the world too much along the main street, kind of middle of the road thinking, and then a high-rise looks like every high-rise in the world. That kind of routine we should avoid. And if we can learn something from the RWE still, I think the freshness of the approach, because we never built a building before. That was our first building, and obviously our first high-rise. And so we challenged the typists. I mean, we didn't accept anything in the brief. We just said, okay, why is it like that? Shouldn't we try this, and so on. And it ended up with a building that was not in the catalogue before. And we try to do that with all of our buildings. I mean, if it is a station or a family house or a hotel or whatever, we try to challenge the typists, because I think big buildings, especially high-rises, offer you the opportunity to do something new. I mean, even the client supports you to do that, and then the pure scale of the building makes it possible to do something, new technology, to invent a new kind of facade, a new kind of profiles, new kind of air conditioning or whatever into a building like that, and we use that opportunity.
When we visited China last year, there was a lot of talk about getting people to come into these buildings and go up in them, as opposed to having these buildings just be isolated and nobody goes in there. Is there, when you build a sense of community, when you think of doing that with a building, is there more to it than that, than just getting people in there to circulate?
It is mainly, I mean, high-rises are a matter of density in building in cities. So if you provide the right level of density, I think you get the people as well. Yeah, you get the pressure, and then you have just to open the buildings to get them in. My impression I was recently in Beijing, for example. You might wonder, but my feeling is it's even a lack of density. The density is too low. That's the problem. Yeah? And then I think the type is still like they're importing American high-rises, 90%, 95%. There might be 5% experiments, but they should have 50% experimental and 50% traditional. That would be the right mixture to make sure that the adaptation to the new needs, and cities like that are, we have no experience with cities in that scale. I mean, there was not 100, 200, 500 years of experience with cities of 20 million people, right? So we have to find our way, and that means we have to experiment.
Well, Christoph Ingenhoven with Ingenhoven Architects from Dusseldorf, thanks for visiting us in London.
Thank you.